All right, Leinster and Irish rugby star Garry Ringrose popped into studio earlier this week for a chat ahead of the new season. Garry also works as an ambassador for Audi, so we kicked off the chat there. All right, I'm delighted to say we got Garry Ringrose with us. Gary, how you doing?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me in.
You're here as an Audi ambassador. We were wondering, which Audi do you drive?
I currently drive in an A3 saloon. So I actually didn't know they did the A3 in the saloon before joining Audi, so it's a lovely car.
Is that not like a middle-aged businessman's car, or am I mistaking it for...
No, I'm pretty sure it's kind of the A3 range would be marketed towards the kind of younger folk.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware, anyway.
It's the kind of smaller, cool one.
I think so, yeah. I hope so.
Yeah.
It's not quite the Q7. I think Rob's in the Q7, which is tailored to the...
Old man farmer.
More senior individual. Yeah.
He's a gentleman farmer.
Yeah, he is.
A couple of things I want to talk to you about. Felipe's back at Leinster. You're just of an age where you were kind of like very impressionable at coming through in your rugby following to remember Felipe and his pomp.
Yeah, certainly the tail end of his time at Leinster. I mean, he was a pretty influential character. Now, I wouldn't have been over-analysing his game other than just being a Leinster supporter in the stand now, but it's someone who played kind of so passionately and certainly with Argentina, the experience he has as an international player, the fact that we have him in helping us out coaching is phenomenal. He's
got a reputation as being a fairly fiery character, certainly on the field. What's he actually like on day-to-day? Have you had that much dealings with him yet? Is it too early in the season? Or?
Yeah, well, I suppose it is still early days, but he's incredibly measured and intelligent. You can see he's a true half of proper rugby intellect, and the messages he's kind of given us is a breath of fresh air and certainly a different perspective to what we would have had last year. So it's kind of great having his set of eyes even adding to the group.
One of the things I definitely remember is like obviously the back line that he played in was a team festooned with legends, but there was always an energy in the crowd when Felipe stepped. Like there was too whenever Brian O'Driscoll stepped, but when Felipe did it too, there was this kind of sense of nobody actually knows what's going to happen next year. It's not the same thing that you would have got from a fairly standard number 10, which would have been maybe more traditional at Leinster before that. So do you remember that, like that level of excitement, or are you just a little bit too young?
Probably not as specific as that. From what he's saying now, he's be quite calculated and strategic, and so I don't know, thinking back, whether the stuff he did, what might have looked like off the cuff that he had pre-planned and worked out, and kind of would do out of instinct that kind of led him to be as successful as he was.
Because the backline that you guys have at the moment is obviously unbelievably good and very talented and very competitive as well. So where do you find out? Like, how do you get better as a group? What's that process like?
Well, I think it was interesting off the back of last year, the way, looking at any successful group, the kind of change before change is needed was a quote I heard before, and we got to evolve because everyone else is going to get better. So we have to similarly try and improve as opposed to sit back and think we've in any way completed it or reached the perfect picture, because we know even some of the games last year that's not the case. Certainly having Felipe in with a new set of eyes helps, because he'd have certain messages, certain things he'd believe on how to play in backline moves and how to even in phase attack, which has helped, as well as kind of each other. Off the back of the tour, you're kind of playing and training with other guys and learning off them, and then try and bring that back and get the edge individually and then also collectively.
It seems like Felipe is almost perfect. He's a perfect representation of what this Leinster team is about, because it's interesting that you mentioned that he's more structured than we may think, than the people who just watched him play may think, because that seems representative of this Leinster team, that you are a very structured team. You're very good when it comes to set pieces, but also when it comes to that spark, that moment of brilliance, that creativity when it's required, that's also there.
Yeah, well, what I really like about Felipe is he's quite simple in his messages and is doing the simple things really well. And then, which kind of, if you can lay that foundation of doing the simple things well, it kind of gives the players that, the chance to do their individual impacts or individual moments off the back of it, which is something I'm certainly looking forward to when the games start. That certainly will hopefully be evident off the back of what he's brought in.
When you say that if you're not changing, if you're not evolving, then you're moving backwards, what do you think are the things that you need to hold on to? What was the thing that you did the best last year as a collective?
What we did best, I think our adaptability compared to the year before. It was the semi-final against Scarlets and then the semi-final against Clermont. Both of them were games we probably didn't adapt to throughout the game as quick as we should have. So that was kind of one learning that we brought into the following year, that we are aware that teams will come up against us and try to negate what would be our strengths and how to go about that. And it's something that we constantly always have to improve, because it's only going to continue and get even tougher. So it'll be about managing the game well and how to come up with different ways to beat teams, because it's rarely is it kind of one way of playing that kind of wins a game. I suppose last year, thinking to the semi-final of the Heineken Cup, which was a pretty high-scoring game compared to the final. So there was that element of adaptability. It's not a perfect picture, but certainly kind of learnings like that, if we can continue to bring into next year, hopefully, this year, hopefully help us.
I think that kind of actually rubber stamped the season last year, the final, and the kind of conditions it was played in and the way it was played in. It was like, right, Leinster can actually do this. When they're not hammering a team, they can actually grind out the results, especially in the heat of a battle in the final of a European tournament.
Like it is one big positive we can take out of it, but kind of at the same time, I think it was until the 72nd minute we actually took the lead. So, I mean, if that game had gone slightly differently, if Teddy Thomas had booted the ball before he got tackled into touch, they could have been very different, and then I could be talking in a completely different light on the final. So there's an appreciation for that as well. It's not like we're by no means close to where we want to be, and there's still so much stuff we can improve on, if that makes sense.
Where do you think the game is at the moment? We kind of see there tends to be trends that evolve after World Cups, where everybody kind of comes and sees what the best stuff that's happening, and then everybody tries and steals a little bit of it. And it certainly seemed that the old notion of like locking teams down and being very defensive and making sure that was brilliant worked for a while, but then obviously the All Blacks come along and realise that they're attacking from everywhere, and they're attacking at pace and from different angles, and the running is amazing, and everybody, and the skill level is so high, so that we all have to copy that and adopt that. At the moment, as somebody who is an offensive player and kind of focusing on that, what's the evolution in the game? Where's that going? Where do you see that happening?
It's a difficult question. I think some of the coaches might give a better answer than I will. I don't know. The way I look at it is it's a balance between the two. Attack's getting better, so which means we got to improve defensively, and similarly teams' defences are getting better, so we got to come up with new inventive ways to break them down and attack. So I'd kind of be, one element of the game isn't more important than the other, in my opinion. I mean, the amount of scores you see nowadays that are scored off the back of good defence.
So it's a counter-attacking and kind of going straight away when you get the turnover and having that pace at that point. Yeah, well, I think it was Scarlets were probably one of the best counter-attacking teams we came against, and every team's different, but they were certainly incredibly strong. I mean, if you kick to them loosely, they'd pull you apart with how they attacked. So even as personally got a couple of learnings from them and watching them play with regards to their counter-attacks, that's somewhere we can improve. Is that a change in mindset, do you think? Like, as a 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old coming through, at that stage in Irish rugby, would you have been trained, you get the ball, we'll kick the touch, or we'll recycle and we'll be slow and methodical in our build-up, as opposed to the comfortable and chaos stuff that's coming from Stuart Lancaster, and everybody's kind of referenced that over the last 18 months, that there just was this change in mindset, was like, actually, we've got the ball, they're not fully set, why aren't we going now? Yeah, well, I think that'd be consistent with a lot of teams now, how quick they're trying to play, because, I mean, ultimately you want to, when you have the ball, put the opposition under as much pressure as possible. So playing fast and quick and being comfortable doing so is such an important part of the game. Having said that, I don't think I have the answer to your question fully. I'm sure you get a better answer, but I didn't know how you experienced this.
There still would be the balance between, say, even in the big games last year, we might have been playing quick and trying to play on top of teams, but then knowing when, again, which probably we didn't get the year before, knowing when to, say, put kicks in through to put pressure on opposition. So it's not necessarily the most attractive offloading game, but you're putting in pressure kicks to ultimately give you the opportunity to attack off the back of it, if that makes sense. So I still think it's a balance between putting teams under pressure and kicking quite a lot, because I know, not that we'd be basing it ever off the All Blacks, but I mean, they'd be everyone would talk about how good they are ball in hand and the skills they have, but they do kick quite a lot. And I think they're a team that actually do get the balance of, on their best days, the balance of kicking and putting teams under pressure, as well as then breaking them down through their running game. So
does that become instinctive in a team over a period of time? Like,
I think it's a constant learning. To
the point where you get questioned afterwards, why did you kick? Why didn't you run? Or why did you run? Why didn't you kick?
I think of every phase you ask that question. When you're reviewing a game individually, you kind of think back to why you made any decision you did and whether it was the right or wrong one or what alternatives you had, and then certainly collectively what we could have done in different scenarios with Leinster and Ireland, and how we could have been more effective, whether what we did was the right thing or just, again, what other alternatives there are. So I think it's a balance of getting everything right, as opposed to just focusing on one element and being really good at playing fast and offloading, because that can get you in trouble sometimes as well.
At some point, does all that questioning, is it just a normal part of your life now, or is there any risk that sometimes it spills over a bit into second guessing in the moment?
No, not quite. I think you certainly, from my own, or personally, and as well as the whole team, you learn something new from every game, and in terms of that changing and evolution, you have to evolve. You have to ask questions and ultimately try and improve off the back of that. If you kind of don't do that, then you kind of can get static. And
although your instinct is also something that has served you really well. Like, it looks like you have a very natural rugby brain that goes, that ball is free, I should pick it up. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go and slide in that and secure the ruck. Like, what I'm asking here is that, like, there's a balance between understanding exactly what all the options are and then going, feck it, I'm going with the option that I think is best.
I think there's that trial and error during the game. You learn off the back of it. I know there's an element of instinct, but ultimately you sort of pick up that instinct from how you train, what you do in training, what works, what doesn't.
I've tried this before.
What you do in games, what works, what doesn't, and that's why making mistakes is not that it's a good thing, but if you can make a mistake and get away with it and learn from it, then it's a positive in that regard, and that goes for training and matches once it's not too costly in a match.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can train that instinct to a certain extent as well, especially, like, they often talk about it with all sports when it comes to kids. It's like, you see something on TV and then suddenly you want to go out the backyard and try exactly what whoever it was on TV. So for you, maybe it was Brian O'Driscoll or whoever it was. I do wonder, do you still experience that? Like, are you going to turn on the Rugby Championship at the weekend and see one of the Kiwis do something insane and think, actually, that's a good idea, I want to try something like that, that your rugby instinct is growing all the time almost?
Yeah, definitely. I think something Stuart would encourage all of us to watch as much rugby as possible, because you do pick up learnings and different ways of attacking, different ways of defending. You kind of get an appreciation for what's effective and what isn't. So certainly something I'm working on, and he was trying to get me and a lot of guys that don't just watch a game for the enjoyment of it and sort of sit back and relax, and more just after the game actually have a point of view on it.
That's a bit like, no, I'm going home, I'm putting my feet up, I'm watching this and I'm not doing any work.
Well, no, it would just, it's not too intense. You don't need the notepad or anything, but just to have a point of view.
He's WhatsApping you clips, isn't he? Going, look at this, you've got to do some training this week.
No, it's not as bad as I'm making it sound, but it would be to just have a point of view after every game of rugby, which means you're just thinking that bit.
Yeah, and what's their defensive structure? How's that working?
Yeah, and just kind of what
can you how would you break it?
Yeah, stuff like that. So it's not very taxing at all, and it's a game we'll probably be watching anyway. So.
Yeah. Like, do you enjoy watching rugby? Like, will you watch the rugby at the weekend? Will you get up early on Saturday morning?
Yeah, probably will. They're good games to watch. Be interesting to see how Australia go off the back of the tour there, and obviously the Kiwis see where they're at the moment, as well as the other two. So I'll probably get up and watch it. I'm sure most people will, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think you kind of outlined it there. You kind of think to yourself, focusing on this thing 24/7 and then doing more of it on your day off or whatever it may be taxing. But I guess the Rugby Championship is a pretty special. It's not like you're being asked to
most people who are watching anyway, I watch it probably with my old man or my brother or something.
You're not watching Zebra Treviso though, are you?
Sorry?
You're not watching Zebra Treviso.
If it's on, yeah.
I wanted to just briefly ask you about defending the 13 channel and how that has changed in recent seasons. Has it changed? Is there different responsibilities on you now?
I don't know whether it's changed or not, because I can't speak too much about what it was like before I was playing.
You're around the first team fringes now for 3-4 seasons, is that about right? 18-19?
I certainly think it's an important position defensively, because you can kind of pull width, and there's an element of controlling the people inside you. You do have license to kind of make decisions.
To shoot up or
either shoot or not, put pressure, realise you're kind of on the back foot and sit off. So there was a lot of decisions that would kind of go through the 12, 13 winger. Probably traditionally the winger wouldn't have been, I don't know, back in the day needed to be the best defender, but now the wingers, I mean, some of the wingers I play with are the best defenders on the pitch. Someone like Keith Earls and the knowledge, experience he has, he's someone I'd still kind of learn off and how he goes about, how he defends. So
just his positioning or what he's saying to you, or
a bit of everything really. It helps the experience he has, and he's proven year on year how good he is, and he's just someone you can learn off. I think most players, regardless of what position they're playing, learn a thing or two off him and how he defends.
In the middle of a game or after a game? Like, are you talking to him after the game, or kind of is it like, oh, that's interesting, he's there, why is he telling me to do this?
Probably during you're in the heat of battle, you don't overthink it too much, but after a game, certainly watching him, you see the work he does off the ball. Even someone like Issa, who was on the wing, he'd be one of the best defenders in the Leinster team when he was playing and he was out in the wing. So there's definitely the 13 and the wingers, they, not that the whole defence would revolve around them, but they certainly have the opportunity to impact when they can.
Because we'd obviously talk a bit with Brian O'Driscoll about the role of the 13 as a defender, and he would definitely say that it's one of the most important on the field in terms of setting the position and kind of setting the edge and deciding exactly how that's all going to work.
Yeah.
Did you get loaded with that responsibility when you set straight into the team as a 19-year-old, or is that something that as you get older and more senior in the team, they're like, okay, you're going to have to be far more vocal? And
yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't, not that it's a massive responsibility. I think it's the core of any team. If there's the understanding there, it's not the 13 doesn't need to be necessarily an out-and-out leader, but if there's an understanding amongst the team, you can defend well. The 13 understands defensively his role, and the people around him, he should be good to go from there. So it's not like if the 13 defends poorly that the whole team's going to defend poorly. I wouldn't put it like that, but yeah, there's the opportunity. Certainly I've seen the guys I've played with, like the likes of Robbie, Bundy, Jared Payne, you know what I mean, the way they defend at 13 and what I've learnt off them, that certainly someone like Jared Payne, when you are a leader in 13, it certainly helps the team. So it's probably something that I need to work on and continue to improve as a player. Yeah,
I mean, people probably forget, because you've been around for so long and the team has been so successful while you've been there, that you're still pretty young in general rugby terms. But at the same time, people keep retiring and leaving, so your kind of status within the Leinster squad in particular starts to get, I'm actually more senior now at this point.
Yeah, well, even seeing some of the younger guys now, I always thought I was the young guy, but even during training there's loads of lads that are putting their hands up and impressing. So I think at 23, even play along with Jordan Larmour and stuff, no longer the young guy, which has moved on pretty quickly.
These next couple of years, though, there will be more onus on you to be someone who's speaking in meetings and kind of doing that kind of stuff. Is that something you're interested in, or the correct answer is yes, of course I'm interested in it, but
no, I think it's just a natural evolution really, and I think even talking to some of the more senior guys, or Issa before he left, or even Johnny and stuff, it kind of just comes with time and you learn over time and naturally kind of grow into that role, as opposed to trying to be ahead of your time at any stage, that sort of way. Personally, would just try and make sure you get your own job, own role right, and kind of once you have that locked down, then there's the opportunities present itself to try and maybe talk when you can or when it's needed.
How do you spend the whole year not thinking about the World Cup, or putting it at bay and kind of at least pretending that you're not thinking about it?
I don't think it'll be too difficult. Although it's next year, it kind of feels like it's a season
after that,
half and a half away, that sort of way. So not really overthinking it too much. I think that'd be the downfall of anyone, to get too distracted about the World Cup. Yeah,
well, there's a lot of rugby.
There's just so much rugby to play, and especially when the pre-season games for Leinster have already started, and when the season starts in 2 weeks' time, I won't be thinking much about the World Cup. It'll be kind of just focusing on short-term goals and how can improve for there in the moment, week on week.
Well, listen, best of luck with the season coming. Thanks a million.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
OTB AM. Thanks Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.